Hi there, and welcome back to LF Educational Associates YouTube page. My name is Kristen Flannery. I am the lead education advocate and the owner here of my team. Today, we're here to talk about IDEA. IDEA is a federal law that protects children with disabilities as well as their families and their rights around special education. As I mentioned, IDEA is a federal law. It is sort of the umbrella or the shell for all of the states in the United States to meet. It is a requirement, but each state can modify in their own way around timelines, policy, and procedure. If you're like me and you live in the state of Massachusetts, come find me in a few days and we're going to talk about how the state of Massachusetts interprets IDEA and how we put our own special guidelines on that. But for today, I'm just going to briefly touch upon the pillars of IDEA. And I want to tell you in advance, there's a lot to know about each of the six. So, again, later this week, when I continue my recordings, I am going to go through each of the six pillars one at a time and get really in depth as to what they mean and what the law says. For today, I just want to introduce you to these so that you're more equipped next time you head into your IEP meeting. So, the first of the six pillars is parent and student participation. And that's why I'm here. That's why we created this YouTube channel. We're a group of advocates who are passionate that parents and students, as the law says, are an equal part of the educational team. And it's really hard to do that without the knowledge needed to guide yourself through the process. And the process can be really complex. So, that's what we're here to do. We want to empower you with knowledge. And that's the first part here. It's parent and student participation. You guys should be a part of all decision making processes, all the way from consent to evaluation to eligibility determination to IEP creation, all the way through implementation and progress monitoring. Again, we'll talk a lot more about this later in the week. The second pillar is around a free and appropriate education. So, all children with disabilities must receive an appropriate education at the public expense under public supervision with no cost to the parent. And that goes from children with mild disabilities, moderate disabilities, and severe disabilities. It is the responsibility of the public school system to ensure that all children are receiving a free and keyword appropriate education. Appropriate meaning that your child is able to access their learning and to make progress in their curriculum. We'll get deeper into that later in the week. The third piece is appropriate evaluation. This is when a child is either initially referred for special education. Maybe you, as a parent, are concerned about different developmental pieces. Maybe it is somebody at the staff of the school who has concerns. Remember, parents can request an evaluation, and the districts also can request consent for an evaluation. But once we get into evaluating, how do we know what makes a good evaluation? What makes a really effective and valid evaluation? So, the federal government, again, put forward these main pillars of this one pillar. I guess I love the word pillar today, of what makes an appropriate and effective evaluation. Again, we'll dig deep into all of this next week, but essentially comprehensive. We're testing any area that we suspect is a disability. It's not comprehensive if we're not looking into the areas of concern. Multifaceted, don't just use one tool. We want multiple tools and multiple ways to gather information. Non discriminatory, we need to ensure that we're meeting the child where they're at and understanding and respecting what they're bringing to the table. And again, culturally and linguistically appropriate. If you're going to assess a child who does not speak English, then that assessment and evaluation tool needs to be provided to the child in their native language to truly assess their understanding of the content. If somebody were to assess me in another language other than English, I would be in a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, that's the only language I know how to speak at this time, though it is a goal of mine in the future. The last piece is technically sound. We want to make sure that the assessments are reliable, they're valid, they're accurate measures. We call that standardized. The second to last piece, and my passionate part here, is that it involves parents. You have the right to consent or to deny evaluations. You have the right to initiate evaluations if you have concerns. And the final piece here, that they're conducted by qualified professionals. If you're going to have your child assessed for a potential disability, you want to ensure that The speech and language evaluation is done by a speech and language pathologist. I myself am a professionally licensed special education teacher, pre K through 12, but I'm not a speech and language, I'm not certified in speech and language. So I would not be the best person to conduct that evaluation. You want to use qualified professionals. The fourth pillar is IEP. IEP stands for Individualized Education Program. Once a child is identified as having a disability and is identified as eligible for special education, an IEP is created. And it's a legally binding document that outlines specific educational goals and services. It is developed by a team, and notice what I have in bold here. That's right, parents, you're a part of that team. It's parents, educators, and any other relevant professionals. So, as a parent, if your child has outside services, or if you're working with an advocate like myself, you can bring these people openly to your IEP team meetings to help explain your side of what you're seeing outside of the school day. The fifth and second to last pillar we'll talk about briefly today. Don't forget, we'll dig into each later on. I'm sure that you're feeling like, this is a lot, especially the acronyms. That's what makes going into these meetings really tough. And it's what makes me super passionate about sharing this information because, again, knowledge is power. And once you know what all these words mean, it really helps you be more of an active participant in your child's education planning. So LRE, or least restrictive environment, is sort of a twofer, right? The goal ultimately is that you want your child to be educated with with their non-disabled peers as much as possible. You want your child around like same age peers as much as appropriate throughout the day. And as an education advocate, I argue often that sometimes least restrictive environment may be a smaller setting depending on the student, right? So our goal, yes, of course we want to be integrated with our non-disabled peers as much as possible. But far too often I've been an advocate in meetings where districts want to push children into inclusion or into the large group with the goal of including them with their like peers. However, sometimes that can cause social emotional distress, especially if the academics are not at their what we call zone of proximal development or an area where they're comfortably and effectively learning, right? I know for me, as I always say to parents, I am not athletic. I have never been athletic. So if I was to go and run, what would make me feel the least restrictive is to be around a group of runners who are as at the same rate as myself. If you were to stick me out in the Boston Marathon, I would be in trouble. Now, we're lucky we have so many supportive people around here and they would cheer me on along the way, but that doesn't change how I would feel on the inside. So again, ultimately this regulation comes from the desire for children to be as included as possible, but sometimes it's important for teams to consider what is the best way to include this child. That may be a smaller group setting with peers that are accessing the curriculum at the same rate that they are. And the sixth and final pillar of IDEA is procedural safeguards. So we will again dig really deep into all of these next week. And I keep saying that because it is just, there's so much information to learn about each one, but at least we touched upon them today. So, procedural safeguards essentially are all of these policies that have been put into place to protect the rights of children with disabilities and their families. Again, that is why I do what I do. I was such a passionate special education teacher for 11 years. Loved my students, and it tore my heart to have to leave the classroom. To this day, I keep in touch with most of them. But I have to tell you, I had this knowing in myself that I had to share this information vast and wide with families because there are so many safeguards to protect children and children with disabilities and their families. But if you don't know what you don't know, how can you enact and act upon those rights? So that's what I'm here to do with you. Again, these procedural safeguards, some examples are the right to an impartial due process hearing. So if the family and the district are, this is at the end of the dispute sort of continuum, but if the district and the family are not able to come together, the federal government came in and said, okay, we need a non-biased party to decide, right? Because it wouldn't be fair for either one to be more influenced. So that's in there, and also the right to access student records. If you tuned in with me, I think 2 days ago we talked about this. In the state of Massachusetts, you can request a copy of all of your child's education records, including emails that use their name, because it's public record. And in the state of Massachusetts, the district has 10 working school days to get that to you. This can be really helpful when looking back and reflecting on a child and seeing sort of where did we go wrong? Where was the ball dropped? And how could we change things moving forward in their programming, in their placement, in their services to ensure that we're making effective progress. So, again, I know I threw a lot at you today. I hope your head isn't spinning. I hope you're at least going, some of this sounds interesting. And it should, because again, these policies and procedures are here to protect you. And when you have better knowledge of them, you're going to be a much more effective participant in your child's education planning. So, again, more to come. I'm going to dig into each of these 6 pillars over the next couple days. And as always, if you need help working with your district, or if you just want a consultation and to pick our brains, please reach out to LNF Education Associates LLC. We're here to help you and your child navigate the complex waters of special education. Find us on our website, www.lfeducational.com. Send us an email at lfeducational@gmail.com, or don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. My daughter's been teaching me how to say that cooler. Let me try. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe. I don't think I did in the right order. She taught me so much cuter. But please do that. Follow, like, subscribe to me on YouTube for some more videos of tips and tricks from your educational advocate. And follow me on Facebook. I post a lot of really cool flyers and share lots of free information there as well. I am so thankful that you tuned in to me today, and I can't wait for you to come in again. See you soon.